All right, everybody. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. I had been playing a shit ton of Code Vein, so I figured why not make some fan art of it. So we are going to be working on my favorite character so far, which is Yakumo and his former companion slash friend, who is also like in love with him and will not tell him, Emily. So I did a sketch last night, so let's go ahead and hop on over here so you guys can see it. So we got Yakumo here. He is protecting Emily, who is going to be down here, and she's going to be shoving the onigiri in her face that he makes that she absolutely like loves. And she's going to be doing a cute little face, and if you played the game, she actually is a boss in the game, and she turns into this like fire kitten thing, fire cat. So I was gonna give her little cat ears and a little cat tail. I didn't want to draw her as her like monster form because I feel like Emily's just cuter that way, and this is what she normally looks like. Is up here in this corner above me, if you can see me. So she kind of looks like, anime like Timu Jill Valentine. So I was pretty happy with the way this turned out so far. So what I'm going to be doing is I need to I'm going to finish at least the Emily sketch, and then from there we can, and this is what the background looks like currently. From there we can start working on Yakumo and like cleaning things up and doing like the um whole deal. So all right, so it started like a super fast sketch over, but we're gonna do like a little bit of like a cleaner one here. So we're gonna lower this down too. And I left myself a little note just so I would know what I was thinking here. Let's turn these off for a second here. Now we can come in and do a better, cleaner sketch of Miss Emily here, being really cute. And like my main thing with her is like I just want her to be like adorable, enjoying the onigiri. So we're not going for anything too crazy. I mean, especially since she's like mostly in the background here. Not quite the focus so much. So yeah, his giant kitty girlfriend. Exactly. He's missing out. It's the I love fireworks too thing all over again. Drives me nuts. I'm not sure if I want to use the same brush or not for like their final lines. I haven't decided. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, especially with like Ricky being the tsundere of the group. Ricky. And try not to make things too complex here. But at least want her to be like cute. Because then Emily's adorable. She literally saves them from being thrown into a trash can, so best girl. Next boss I had to fight is literally tried to throw them in a trash can because they wouldn't wake up. She's like, no, sir. That's my friend and my love interest. You can't do that. I was gonna give her like the kitty ears, so it's this a little bit. Puffs. Uh, fur here to reinforce the kitty ears. Yeah, that's true. You're right. Give her like the blush lines too. Make her super cute. Flipping my canvas, of course. Late shot. So cute. Yeah, definitely big Bakugo energy. It's so stinking cute. while I was doing this, I was like, I realized I don't really do like these kind of like more casual like moments uh in my artwork enough. So they're gonna be good practice. Like not everything has to be like action bastard all the time, like with my artwork. Although I'm good at it. Not everything has to be serious. Put some rice on her face here. Hey Annie, how's it going? Yep, it's an art stream today. I'm working on finishing up that sketch. I'm gonna assume that she also has like the finger gloves like Yakumo, since she's part of Yakumo's crew. I couldn't really find a lot of like reference pictures of her. Which is a shame 'cause she's so cute. Oh, nice. Oh yeah. Gotta take care of your villagers. She looks like she has some like I think she has like a similar armband setup here to Yakumo, so what we're gonna roll with here. Like really pointy elbows in this style. Bag kind of thing here on her arm. Strappies here. This side. And these lines don't have to be like super clean because I'm gonna take a different brush and clean them up, but it doesn't hurt to have like a decent clean sketch. Excuse me. And as every code vein girly has in this game, they have some some boobas. Oh my gosh, she's even got seams like on the the boobs. That's hilarious. It's like absolutely stretched to the max. Onigiri a bit more triangular. Actually, I probably should have like a bit out of it. I should put like a whole pile of like onigiri behind her. Really sell the fact that she loves them, and then she'll eat like a ton of them. Yeah, all the snacks. No snacks are safe as long as Emily's around. This one. We're back and forth here. Actually, I don't remember which. I think this is actually the correct direction. I think. I get dyslexic when I flip my own art. I'm like, shit, which way was it supposed to face initially? Doesn't do me any favors. That's for sure. But I think this is the correct. Alright, she's got like a whole arm sleeve thing kind of going. So I'm gonna also assume that it's like Yakumo's. They were part of the same unit, so I would imagine that they have similar outfits. Little matching outfits. And her belt seems to be pretty low on the hips, so put it here. This way. Belts that come over her hips here. I think she's even got another belt thing this way. We're just gonna put it there just for the heck of it. Oh, she's got like a under boob strap here to keep them up, to keep the baps up. And she's got, oh my god. Oh, that's too zoomed in. She's got a pack over here, this side. This other multitude of belts. They really like belts in this game. I got that Final Fantasy slash Kingdom Hearts kind of motif going on here. This floppy shaped one. Zipper. Extra little. Of course, that's attached to a belt. Why not? And pants kind of flare around bottom here. And the screenshot I had doesn't really show her boots too well, so I'm gonna just kind of have to make them up as I go. It's like there's buckle here. Imagine that. kitty tail. Other boot part, I guess. I don't know. Weird. This little like cross is kind of hard to. Leg cross is not a pose I draw that often, so kind of honestly don't know what I'm doing with it. So we're just gonna kind of take it till we make it here, right? All right, that's a good enough sketch. That and reference. Yeah, not too bad. I feel like I probably should do the clean version of Emily first since she's in the background, and then I can do the clean version of Yakumo. That's it's kind of how you want to do things is work from back to front, or at least that's what I've found success in. So this, and then we'll put her in a folder, and then we'll clean up her lines. So Emily sketch. Get this organized, and then we'll put it down to maybe 45. Now we can start doing some clean lines. But again, because I drew her pretty simple, it shouldn't be that hard. I want to make sure I try to keep the energy of the sketch best I can. And since she's going to be in the background, we're not going to do super insane inking. Oops. Do what I usually do, where I thicken it up a little bit at the intersections. the lines. Slight details on the opposite end of it. What kind of uniform? So let's give it a little bit of variation up there. Trying to use my full arm and elbow here for these curves. By the way, I always recommend drawing through your lines and then just erasing away the areas that you don't need. You get like an uninterrupted stroke, you get the line confidence, what it's called. Makes your lines look more intentional. Hell yeah, we got the personified banger. Oh yeah. It's always important. It's like probably like the number one thing that I see people struggle with when it comes to line work is their lines are either like, they're like really scratchy, like they do like something like that, or they try to do this, where like they're trying to continue the line from where it stopped, and that's just makes it janky. So you want to avoid the jank as much as possible. You at least get the illusion of like, hey, this person knows what they're doing here. If like the line is like nice and confident looking, makes it clean. Like this, I'll probably draw it all the way through here, so I get the curve that I want. Okay, you're gonna do great. Hey, how's it going, Nepha? Hell yeah. Let me go ahead and save. Oh, good. I have water with ice now. Hell yeah. Oh, I just realized I got another follow. Thank you, Ready Ben. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and give you a follow back. Thank you so much. Oh shit, you were my 100th follower. Oh my god, I wish I had like some like confetti like animation or something to celebrate. Officially awake. Yeah, so I actually stayed up too late last night because I was playing Code Vein and I was messing with the character creator. I was like, there is got to be a way to make like a decent beard in this game. And I stayed up till like fucking 4 trying to figure it out and I still didn't succeed. So I'm like, man, really? Like there's no manly revenants in this game. Like we're all just super soft boys. I know. It's exciting. It's a nice little milestone. I'll have to do like a some sort of special like thank you kind of image or something there. Round off her kitty ears. I think that'll make it cuter. Cheated a little bit there and I didn't do quite my line strike through method. That's okay. Like I literally just preached about it for like 15 minutes and then I just did that. It's okay. Art rules are not absolute. They're more like guidelines, you know? That looks way better. It's a lot cuter when it's rounded. Been trying to get better at doing like things that are cute, especially since like cute art is just like does big numbers compared to the type of artwork I normally do. So, like I said, my artwork is always so serious all the time. I need to like lighten up a little bit and do some fun things. Show some more personalities of like OCs and characters. Oh yeah, that really strange holiday where they associate Jesus and rabbits, even though it's supposed to be about the spring solstice with Austera. Where Jesus the Lich turns into a bunny and lays eggs for you to find. By the way, you know, when I make fun of like Christians and stuff, I'm not like anti-Christian or anything. Don't get me wrong. I'm here for everybody and like their beliefs and stuff. It's just like, you know, Someone telling me my beliefs are silly when that's what they believe is kind of like, okay, guys, let's poke a little fun at each other here every now and then. We can have a lighthearted conversation about this. Shits an egg filled with candy, yeah, and then leaves. Yep, exactly. It's fucking weird. It's like this poor rabbit. That's like so much pooping to do. What kind of diet do you have to shit candy? Not a good one, that's for sure. Oh, Emily's looking so cute. I'm glad I did all the vestiges on this playthrough, so I can see their all their memories and their storylines. It's a little bit her over here. She puffing her cheek out, full of onigiri. Oh my god, I'm so happy. I just found out that there's an onigiri shop like down the street from me. Like, yes. I'm gonna live off some onigiri. It's also perfect for me because Zoro is my favorite One Piece character, so Zoro's my spirit animal. Naps all the time. Love some sake. I don't really like sake that much. I like it cold. I know that's probably weird, but I drink all my preferred beverages are cold. I was born on a cold, cold mountain. Yeah, that is also strange. What do you want, little boy? Not stranger danger, I'll tell you that. That's definitely not what I want. Can I go home, please? Also, Santa is Odin. You didn't know. Comes from the Wild Hunt in Norse. So we've got a lot of plagiarism going on here. Like literally is Odin with this hunting party. And you're supposed to stay indoors. And if you do the correct thing and you stay inside so you don't interfere with the hunt, then they leave you little gifts for staying out of the way. Basically. They're like, you were a good little person there. and you didn't get in my way and scare off the game. I have a prize. I mean, also, you my Santa got ruined for me just because my dad would just like swear so much trying to put the presents out on Christmas Eve because I was obviously still awake because there's no way in hell that I'm gonna go to bed on Christmas. Hear my dad in the living room dropping shit and going, "God damn it, like, bro!" Either Santa's got a hell of a potty mouth and sounds exactly like my father. Keep your mouth shut when your nieces and nephews come over. Yeah, you can open one present early if you just don't snitch. How about that? God, I'm struggling with this. What? Zoom in more so I can use my elbow. There we go. Uh, let's find some random stuff on my. Let's do. Yeah. What? You think Santa's not real? That's crazy. That's they gaslight you. It's like the most adult thing ever, right? Gaslighting. I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be fun and like a sense of wonder for like children. Like, I don't think it's like harmful. It's just funny. Like from like an adult perspective, it's funny. Yeah, I would say Christmas has gotten a lot more enjoyable for me as more as an adult because I don't speak to my family anymore. Uh, Personal reasons, but that's like way less I have to spend at Christmas time, so I'm a little less broke, and that makes me happy. I'd prefer not to be broke every single year around the same time. It used to annoy me too, because like I love to go to like conventions, and I haven't gone in a long time due to COVID, but um my favorite convention, MagFest, is always in like January or February, but I would always just be so broke because of fucking Christmas that like even if I did go, I had to like bring like ramen noodles to make like in the coffee machines to have food to eat because like cons are really expensive, especially like eating in that area. It's just like crazy expensive. And then, fuck me if I wanted to like buy some artwork or something. I always get so upset when I can't buy any artwork. Makes me so unhappy. But to be fair, all that artwork gets ruined by the lie that is command strips. They're like, oh yeah, they won't mess up your walls or anything that you're hanging. No, they tear everything to shit every single time when you take them off. Makes me so upset. So happy this is turning out so cute. Save. Well, it's always so stressful, Like they're supposed to be like a fun time, but just they're just so like commercialized that it's not as enjoyable as it used to be. Like everything is so expensive. Like even if I wanted to enjoy this, like the aftermath of like being like financially bankrupted, especially if you have like a big family and you're like buying like I don't know for like 12 plus people or whatever, or you have like your immediate family and then you have like your significant other's family, and then if you do like interact with like your cousins, and you have like a million cousins, and it's just uh, and, you don't want to be like the one asshole that shows up with nothing and it's like, well, I'm just here to get my presents. Go. I usually tell people ahead of time, I'm like, look, I am not doing presents because I just don't have the means to do this. So, don't be upset when I don't have anything. That way, it's not a surprise. And I'm always like, please don't get me anything because I can't like reciprocate. So. But they always do. But, yeah. Isn't it fun when siblings like break your expensive stuff that's like super valuable? I still will never forgive my brother for like uh messing up one of my memory cards for my PS2. It was either my PS2 or no, I think it was my PS1 because like I was like on the fourth disc of like Final Fantasy VIII, so like the final disc. So I had save data from that. I had save data from Legend of Dragoon. Like I had all these like JRPG save files, and my I used to play Armor Core like crazy as well. So I had all these like save files from that, and he realized he was saving over one of my files and panicked and pulled my whole memory card out while I was saving and corrupted the whole thing. I was so mad. I was just like, oh my god, please let me beat his ass, mom, dad, please. Oh man. I mean, I'm not saying I was like the perfect older brother or anything, but I never broke any of his stuff. I never like went in and actually like destroyed any of my siblings' like belongings or anything like that. Because it's like not only do I not have a desire to do that, but like I also knew that my parents like had to spend money to buy them, so it's like why would I destroy something that, was not cheap? Here, I could just erase away this. Oh yeah. And we'll give her a cute mark. Although she would be cute with one. Rice around her mouth. Sometimes I like to skip around the image too, and that way I don't get like too burnt out in one particular area. That's crazy. I'd be super upset. Are you the oldest sibling? Yeah, same here. I feel like the oldest child gets like shit on the most. I don't know why parents do that. It's confusing. And this song hits a whole lot different when you find out the singer for this band was on the Epstein list. Big yikes. Sucks because I really like the song. Yeah, I don't know. Parents are weird. The decisions they make don't always make sense, especially with how they treat people. So, regardless, for me, it's no longer my concern. So, it's been a massive relief ever since. Just the constant drama, just for no reason. Like, why do you want to drag other people into your misery? Just, if you're upset about the world and the way that things are, you know, that's your prerogative. But, you know, don't pull me into it. I just want to be happy. That's all I can ask for. I don't go looking for trouble. It's too much energy. It's like exhausting to be upset, like about every little thing all the time. And it's just silly in general. I'd rather put my energy towards, something positive, like I've started exercising again, and, you know, I've been enjoying being a streamer and all that, and meeting all these awesome people online that just, enrich my life versus, like, make it, uh, they don't actively try to make it worse. So it makes me really, really happy that I can find people that are like good friends. And the wonder of the internet is if you find someone that's shitty, there is the block button and you can just ignore them forever. That's when they broke. Wow. Talk about the puffing some copium there. Oh, this is coming along so well. I'm so happy. I mean, I can't wait to get to Yakumo because that's going to be super fun. But I'm having a good time making Emily cute. Emily Chawan. Oh my god, I keep losing my mouse. Keeps going rogue on me. Man, I cut down the details, and there's always still so much detail in these like Code Vein characters. I feel like Code Vein's designs were originally drawn in the much earlier 2000s and then adapted into like a game. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just early 2000s was a lot edgier, I guess, with like designs and stuff. A lot like kind of grittier with like their character designs. There's a lot of like belts and kind of like almost like stuff that's kind of random. I mean, I do it with my character design every now and then, so I guess I can't say too much, but this needs to take a array here. Is kind of chubby. Better. Try to these. Also, thicker. I really doing clean line work is definitely the what takes the longest. I mean, it looks really nice when it's done, at least. So it could be worse. could look like butt when it's done. And then everybody be upset. Drawing onigiri is fun. I don't think I've ever drawn it in my life, so. I hope this translates right visually. It doesn't just look funky. It looks okay, so. I mean, her hand's gonna cover a lot of it, so. Time for the boobas. Oh my god. Oh, almost there. Oh my goodness. How many times does it take for an artist to draw a booby? If I- It's a better curve, but it's like too big. And she's got some pretty big maps, but I think that line's we apply a little bit of gravity to them, of course, as there should be. Use the water balloon method. Yes. Yeah, it's an onigiri rice ball. Yakumo makes them, and they're Emily's like favorite thing ever. I think they're her favorite just because Yakumo made them. So I know when I move to Japan, I'm gonna like survive on them because they're like hellaciously cheap at like the really nice 7-Elevens in Japan. I mean, I could try. I don't know how good they'll be by the time they get to you, though. Getting there. It's crazy that she has a boob seam on her outfit. Yeah, I just discovered I have a shop down my street, uh, not too far from here, that apparently specializes in onigiri. So I also have like two Asian markets, like within like 5 minutes of where we live now, which is fantastic. So we can get some like really nice like produce and groceries and stuff. I don't know, it's just always so much better from the Asian markets or the international markets at least. Like everything seems to be a lot uh, fresher and better taken care of and all that kind of stuff. So fucking hate like American grocery stores like Kroger and stuff like that because it's like I go in there and spending less than like $60 is like nearly impossible. And then the food's crap on top of it. Kind of look like they're about the same size now. But it's the hardest part. Turn my canvas a little bit. Oh my God. Yeah, I would like when we move to Japan, we're definitely we're gonna have a garden, so we have like fresh vegetables. We'll make like the idea is to buy one of the akiyas, which is like a house that nobody wants to take care of anymore because either their elderly family like passed away or they couldn't keep up with the payments or something. So then the Japanese government sells them for like dirt fucking cheap to once you get approved for it. So and then you just get like grants and you fix it up a little bit and it's good to go. There we go. I mean, generally speaking, they're usually like out in the countryside a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, as long as I mean, Japan has like train access pretty much everywhere. So like super nice. Not like here where you have to have a car to get fucking anywhere. Really annoying. Standing here beside you, my heart's lost in new arms. Sad sap song that I still like. Let's put tension across these baps. Oh, I need to stretch. Ugh. Oof. I like that band, but like the dude, like when he hits high notes, has this like really weird like squeak noise. It drives me insane. I have no idea what the symbol is on her little beret here either. But I don't think it'll matter that much. Like I said, because she's going to be like really in the background. Belt under here. Oh, good call. Let me get some water. Thank you, thank you. That helped me up. Stay hydrated, everyone. Drink your water. PSA, like the GI Joe PSAs. Oops, bushes starting to get jank. This is definitely going to be a multi-stream uh, illustration here. Try to try to get decently far here, but I do have to go pick up Vegeta's food. Is that a wet food? I do have like some like squeezy treats for him, so it's not like he's not getting any like wet food, but poor little guy. It's gonna be like, Dad, 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 despair. Why would you let me starve even though I'm totally chubby? It's not because Dad gives you treats all the time. Oh yeah. Yeah, I have to give Vegeta sleepy treats all the time because he just will just be a pain in my ass while I'm trying to do anything. Like, I love him. Like, He's great. He's my favorite, but man, does he like want to be like up in my shit all the time while I'm trying to do everything. And I'm like, dude, I love you, buddy, but dad needs some time to himself sometimes to get things done. He's being good today and leaving me alone while I'm streaming, but after a while he'll come in and he'll like look at me and then he'll put his paws up on my leg and like look at me and do his little croaky meow. Like, Dad, you streamed way too long. Pay attention to me now. Not the side eye. Vegeta will do like his little frustrated like huffs. He'll like sigh. He'll be like, I'm like, well, that's really cute. Come on, man. Ah, yes, details people will never zoom in and look at. Exactly what I'm doing right now. Definitely one of my bad habits. I'm like, but it needs to make sense, like where it connects and how it connects. Otherwise, I'll have a little tism fit. Oh, look at this. And now I have to take lines and put them even in front of what I just did. Like to really like exaggerate this forearm area here. I mean, even if something's going to be covered by other things, I think it's still important to draw it because if you're trying to imagine how it looks like underneath something, it's like way harder than just drawing it and then drawing over top of it, like with what's supposed to go over it. It's just a lot easier. At least that's what I find. Whatever works for you to be the most comfortable when you're drawing. That's just my advice. Hopefully I'm thinking of this correctly. Would be. Probably should take a break pretty soon here. That way my line work doesn't get sloppy. Hey, how's it going? That's going pretty well. I am working on a sketch of Yakumo and Emily from Code Vein. So this is what I have of like Yakumo, and then Emily's over here eating like her onigiri, and he's protecting her. And then I've got like this background like sketched out here. So I'm working on just cleaning up Emily's lines right now. Trying to get as far as I can on at least Emily's line work, and then that way I can move on to Yakumo on Friday. I think it's going to take me a couple streams to get them all done, but I've been playing like a ton of Code Vein, so I thought it'd be cool to do some fan art. I really like these two NPCs a lot. Like Yakumo's like my favorite person to bring with me, and then Emily's just like super cute. Like if you know the story, so I was telling Chad earlier that I have a tendency to do like really like serious like cool guy art all the time, and this is like a perfect opportunity to for me to do something that's a little more cutesy and wholesome. You know, do like actual scenes of how characters might actually interact with each other based on like their lore and the story and all that. So trying to get my like visual storytelling skills up. That is a tip that I always hear in like videos from pros is like make sure you don't do just an illustration just to do one. Like it tells a story and it makes you improve a lot quicker because you have to think of like the best ways to like represent like what's going on in the story with you know the options you have. Let's put this more up here so it makes less of a, like a tangent in the lines. Yay, my beautiful wife is back. Oh, I'm sorry. That's no good. I hit 100 followers earlier, which is awesome. Cool, cool little milestone. We got pretty far on our lines. I don't know. I might be able to finish up the lines during this stream if I lock in. Yeah, seriously, she's so adorable. Her and her Same are really cute. Though I'm pretty sure Emily's older. Emily looks more like uh kind of an adult, sort of. I don't know if she is or not. I noticed with like the other character, female characters that are definitely like older, they give them like the super like the more like mom kind of like longer haircuts, the more sophisticated looking ones like Science Bay. Yeah, anime mom cut. Yep. But not like the like unattractive mom cut, like the hey yo, your mom's hot cut. I'm not here for you, I'm here for your mom. Like, oh, I'm sorry, but Timmy's not here. I'm not here for Timmy. I'm here to wife you. Yeah, the erased mom. Hell yeah. Yeah. Lisa Lisa. Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. When Josuke's boyfriend wasn't lusting after him, he was lusting after her, so Why, hello, the beautiful woman that gave me my beautiful Josuke. Yeah, exactly. We all know. Rocky trying to trick us into thinking that it's not all yaoi. No, it's a tough guy action series. Okay, brother. Sure it is. Yeah. Somewhere Tim Curry approves. I can do it. I can finish Emily's lines. Keep telling myself that. Then I gotta go get the kitty food. I think I have to pick up some more prescriptions. I got a message from Walgreens. I think my thyroid medicine's ready, which is good because I'm almost out of it. Yeah. I was telling Chad earlier that he's so chubby, he'll definitely survive. No, too much cheek clapping for him to be sneaky. Oh, little thing around him. He's going on. And here I am doing completely unnecessary details. It's, yeah. Oh, look at that. That's crazy. I totally drew both of them out. I don't know what you're talking about. I took no shortcuts. I don't know what you're talking about. You guys all saw me draw both of them. No, it's not actually a bad art habit. That's actually a good one. That's actually a really good tip. I should have been doing that to begin with for things like this. It's going to be like essentially the same thing on next to each other. So why draw twice? Why, you don't have to. I could even actually double this and put it on the other side if I wanted to. In fact, I think I probably will. And then I can just manipulate it with like my transform tool so it fits the other side. And honestly, if this was like a completely like front facing like static image, you could just use what's called the symmetry tool. So it just draws the same thing simultaneously on opposite sides. It's a really nice tool for creating like really like ornate things. You can use the symmetry tool and then you can just warp their perspective to kind of fit uh like if you're making like accessories or something. You can just put it on your put it where it needs to go. And I'm not sure what this pattern is on here, so we're gonna do maybe that it's kind of like this because I think that would look cool. Definitely gonna copy this and put it on the other side. 100%. Fucked around this again. There's no reason to. I mean, digital art has like all these tools to make things easier and like faster, so might as well utilize them, right? If anybody says they're cheating, then you can hit the block button. The block button is so free. Because professionals do it too, I promise. Yeah, it's like a nice little pattern there. So now that I've got this, paste horizontal. We can move it over here. We can kind of like manipulate it the way it should be. We're not even going to be able to see all of it anyway, so here it's a little more stretched. That. Then just go along here like that. Oop. Oh wait. Do this first so I know what I'm looking at. Rid of that. Rid of that. And then forearm area. Perfect. Save it real quick. Merge the lines. Then we can just go and put some of the spots in here. So, oh man, yeah, that saved me so much trouble. Actually, do a line for the belt, another layer. Thickness somewhat consistent. little bit of details, but how much of that actually need? Okay, 1 star. It's going to be visible. Two of these. Isn't really going to be able to see much of it. But maybe I'll just try. Let's see. Let's see the other one. By that. So I'm starting to get sore. think what I'll do is I'll just finish this belt, and then we'll call it a day. I don't know where this is supposed to connect to. That's okay. We're just gonna add it in there because it's on the reference. Oh, no. So, maybe we won't finish the whole belt. I'm getting really fatigued now, so I want my lines to get more sloppy as I go. Alright, that's probably good for today. Give my shoulder a break here. I think we did really good. Made a lot of progress. Let me fit it on screen here, and then again, this is what I have the idea for Yakumo here. I might scooch Emily over just a bit here. So actually, let me do that while I'm thinking about it. See more of her. At least see that she's got like the Onigiri. Yeah. Trying to make her super cute. And then, of course, I have the background here, and she'll be like down here. And in the game, she's a fire kitty boss, so that's why I put like the fire and stuff. But yeah, that's what we got so far. Let me go ahead and save once again, just to be sure. I think she looks pretty cute. I'm really happy with how this is going. So, all right. Uh, can you see him on the screen? He's right here. Super huge. I know there's a bit of delay on the stream here, so. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today while I worked on this Code Vein fan art. If you like the kind of content I do, please follow me to see when I go live. Consider subscribing. That would help me out tremendously. I do have a VGen. I have actually put my sale on live. I know I kept saying that there was a sale and I forgot to actually turn it on. So now it is on. There is a link in my Twitch description and on my Blue Sky. Um, I will not be streaming tomorrow. I'm going to take a break and then I'll be back on Friday to work on this image more. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your week until then, and I will catch you Friday. Bye bye bye.